Welcome to the Hex Devs podcast. I'm your host, Thiago.
And I'm your co-host, Stephanie.
Today we have a very special guest with us, Gleidy. So how are you doing, Gleidy?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me here, guys.
Thanks for coming.
So Gleidy has a bachelor in computer science from the Universidad Central de Venezuela and a specialization in web application development and e-business from IBM Venezuela. She has more than 10 years of experience with user experience development and front-end development, and she's now working as a software developer at Unbounce. So, Gleidy, do you mind sharing with everyone a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, you did a very good job with the, the resume. So I'm from Venezuela. I studied computer science over there. So I at that point I work. My specialization was web development. So I started working as a backend, mostly in Java, at that point. So but then I start getting more interest in JavaScript and CSS. And when this is going to sound like a little bit old, but when the Ajax came out and CSS was in the boom, so forget about tables and then start working with this HTML structure. So I forgot about Java completely and I start focusing on just front end.
And you sound much happier now.
So even though backend is okay, I felt way more comfortable working on the front end. Also, I have the chance to interact with the designers more, which is good because I also like the user experience and also see how people is using the product and the view you are building and see how can you improve it. That's my reward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so you said you were working on like UX back then, and can you tell us about like the project or the product you were working on?
Well, the company I work in Venezuela, it was a small startup. So we were doing at that point, it was something similar to LinkedIn, but for Venezuelan companies. The idea was for internal service, so a bunch of companies could recruit people from that application.
You have a lot of experience with UX and front end. What were the projects that you are more proud of being working? What do you think was the most interesting projects that you worked on?
Oh, well, I have had a little bit of everything, so it's a bit difficult to choose a favorite one. When I was at EA, so of course, I was working in the online store and plus the Origin app they have for gamers. So it was good. I have the section of achievements, so some games you could see like how much you progress and earn badges, kind of gamification. So at EA that was really good. Some others have been just serious, just regular projects for banks, websites for banks, intranets. Let's see. I don't remember another. Like I guess each company has its own magic, I guess. So and each project also has their own challenges, and mostly also as a developer, you get more interested in the technologies used than just the project. It could be sometimes a little bit tedious, but you're learning new stuff, and
As a backend / full stack developer, I have a sense that things change faster in the front end Do you think that as well?
Yeah. I feel that I go back to junior every 6 months or 8. So you could never say I'm a completely senior front-end developer because right now you're pro in React, but then tomorrow there's a new framework and JavaScript is always evolving and there's always something new, better, faster. I have learned to not get in love or attach too much to one technology because I know that maybe tomorrow that's going to change. So, but the good part is each language, each framework give you some learnings and you know when not replicate the errors in some other new technologies. That's the good part. That's how you define how senior you are. When it's not that you know how to manage the whole tool, it's just to recognize the error, recognize where is this going to take me and try to avoid the mistakes.
Is there any technology that you are happy that it just kind of died? You know, like, I don't want to work with that anymore. I want to learn this new thing that is better.
Well, I was learning Angular at some point.
Classic one.
Classic.
Yeah, and then React came out, and yeah, it have been very good by now. Regularly there are new things on React, which makes it better, and I think it's going to stay for a while. So yeah, I guess I forgot about Angular, so I have to let it go.
So it sounds like you're excited about React. So are you working on a React project right now?
Yeah, our goal at Unbounce is move the whole app to React. So we are working in different projects in order to make it better, and that's the goal of our team. And yeah, so let's see. But until now, it's just React, but fully React development what I'm doing right now.
And so you're kind of like rebuilding Unbounce and refactoring things. So I know that Unbounce is a Ruby on Rails company, right?
Yeah.
And then what sort of things are you refactoring right now? Is like a Angular stuff that you're kind of refactoring to use React? Or?
No, it's mostly the view. Originally or from the beginning, all was done in a whole chunk, full Rails and Ruby app. So now we just want to separate the view. So we want the view to be in React. So there's no another framework. It's just we just want to make the app faster, and React is giving us that.
Nice. So you said something interesting about not getting attached to any language or any framework because everything changes so fast. So let's say that someone that it's really in the beginning of their career, and they want to start working with frontend, for example. What advice then could you give to them? Like, what should they focus on since the beginning? How they should approach the beginning of their career?
Yeah. So, just learn the basics, the foundations. That's what's not gonna change. So if you are planning to start working as a front end, so of course you really should know how to work at least with CSS, plain JavaScript or ES6, ES7. And of course, what did I say? Sorry, let's go. So my recommendation is to learn the foundations first. That's the only thing that's not going to change. So in front end is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Once you have that done and you understand where it's going, then you just go and try to do it in React or Vue.js or Angular if you want. But at least you know the basics, and that's quite like the goal. Then you go to a company and decide and just realize they have a new framework. So, but you know JavaScript already, so you can jump to any other framework without much of a struggle.
Yeah, nice.
It's important to learn the fundamentals of computer science and like front-end development. What about the basics of UX and design? Can you share some resources about that? Like, how do I structure a page, or how can I make this interaction better or easier to use?
Well, in that sense, my recommendations is just start reading books about user experience. There are tons of small courses in Coursera, for example. So, yeah, because user experience is a technique. So you have to think about it. You also need to adapt. First of all, you need to set up a goal for the project you're working on, and based on that, so you start adding or removing elements and for users to start using it. So there are a bunch of techniques in there, doing A/B testings, bringing people to use the app. So yeah, that's my recommendation is just grab user experience books or do some courses just to learn about that, or at least you have a very close relationship with designers. So it's also something that you can learn on the road. If you start working very close with designers and stakeholders and make decisions about the application, so then you need to start applying user experience in there.
Yeah.
So on your day-to-day work, do you interact with designers and other developers and maybe like some junior developers? Do you do some mentorship or anything like that?
Yeah, so regularly the teams I work on, we have backend, frontends, a designer, QA. So, and we're a team, so we interact every day, every single day. We make all the decisions together, and also, yeah, so we decide what's better for whom, or how my code or my solutions is going to affect the other person, if it affected in some way. So yeah, so mentorships, yeah, so I have had the chance to work with some junior developers. The best strategy there is for beginners, you have been just assigned small tasks and do pair programming with them. In case you're working in something interesting, you can ask them to be with you to see it, or you assign the ticket to them, and like a not a basic ticket, but a kind of medium level, and then you just pair programming. That will help the new interns or new developers to start getting used to the teamwork, because that's the most important part, and also the conventions of the team, because that also depends on the company. Each team is completely different, and you have to set up the agreements. And yeah, for mentorship, I think that's the most important.
I'm a big fan of pair programming, and whenever I'm working at a new company, I try to convince everyone that pair programming is good. So if you want to be agile and if you want to mentor juniors, you should start doing pair programming. So do you have any tips for that? Like how do you start doing pair programming? Because it's kind of a natural thing, right? So you start mentoring and then you kind of show something to the person and then you start like collaborating. So it's kind of a very natural thing to start doing.
Yeah, so what we do regularly, at least here at Unbounce, is we have a 30 minutes period of time where you sit, try to figure out a problem, and if you just got stuck, ask for help. That's the agreement we have in our team, and there's nothing wrong with getting stuck in a problem. So you don't need, as a developer, to have all the answers to all the problems. That's impossible. And so you are part of a team, and there is where pair programming makes its part. So yeah, I understand some people don't like to do pair programming because some of them feel that there's someone there just watching you how to code. So sometimes I'm in that situation, I get nervous. I start even doing typos and stuff. So forgetting English, and yeah, so it's quite stressful. But so you also have to learn how to pair programming. First of all, it's not just there watching how the other person codes. It's make suggestions, trying to get an answer together, share ideas, talk out loud. That's the most important part. Is if you start coding and you are with someone else, so you start saying, oh, well, I think I'm going to do this condition here because blah, 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 even though it doesn't make sense at that point because you are coding and talking at the same time. So, but express the idea. That's what you can take out of pair programming. It's a good technique. It's very valid for not just juniors. It's, of course, with juniors, it's a must. But even though you're a senior, you have to pair programming sometimes. As I said, in front end, you become junior every 7 months. So so it's a constant relationship. Also, that's also another important point. When the team is very comfortable to work in pairs or even trios or whatever, so that makes a huge bond, which everybody feels confident to accept mistakes and not just let it go until the bug just appears because you were ashamed of saying that your code is not good enough. It's like, oh, I'm doing this wrong. I know it's wrong. Please, someone help me. Someone sit with me here. I'm stuck. Then, yeah. So having that confidence in a team is what actually will help. It's not just being the superhero developer that can do everything. Yeah.
That was nice. So do you have anything that you want to talk more about the front end? I think that my knowledge of front end ends there. But let's say that you want to talk a little bit about your challenges or the problems that you have been working on. Anything more about the front end world?
Well, the thing with front end, as I have mentioned, is you have to be getting updated constantly. So it's very good if you have the chance to go to meetups. The Vancouver community, the tech community here in Vancouver is very good, so you can find all kind of meetups groups from beginners to advanced. And yeah, that's like my main recommendation if you're wanted to start doing some front-end developer or even whatever It doesn't have to be just front end. As a backend, you just need to do networking and go meetups and to know what's new. That is the most important. That's a little task that you have to have there running. But yeah.
So back in Venezuela, when did you decide to move abroad?
Well, kind of right after the university. I graduated in 2008. So originally my idea was to just go do a master degree outside, maybe live in another country for a while and then go back. But yeah, so I just came to Canada, and I really like it. I really like the vibe here in Vancouver. So I just decided to try to find a job here. So it was a bit challenging because at the beginning, I just came for an English course. So with that student visa, you cannot do anything else. So I start sending my resume everywhere. So I just have one call that it was a consulting company called Habaneros. So they made the interview, and the lucky part for me is that they were able to wait the 2 months, 3 months period of to get the work permit. That's the main block for someone when decides to work here, is that not all the companies are able to wait that for that long. So yeah, so I came here, I found that job. Well, I got the interview. It was funny. It was a funny story. I got the interview in October, at the beginning of October, and they never answered me back. So no email, no nothing. So yeah, so I thought, well, I did well. My English at that point wasn't that good. So yeah, so my visa expired in November, so I went back to Venezuela. When I was there, I just received an email of one of the interviewers saying, "Oh, sorry, all the guys who did the interviews went on vacation, so we didn't have to do the review." And so yeah, we want to give you an offer, but yeah, I was already in Venezuela. So in that situation, so I just told them, like, well, if it's a real offer, so I'm here. I can start all the paperwork tomorrow. So yeah, so it was so I came back to Venezuela without any certainty that I will be able to come back to Vancouver soon, and then this happens, which it was a bit of a luck. Yeah.
Nice.
But you couldn't stay more, right? Because your visa was expiring, so you had to leave. Or could you have stayed a little more?
No, not really. Like legally, you have to stay until the visa says. So yeah, so I had the flight tickets to exactly the last day of the visa. So yeah.
Yeah, but that's pretty cool. So, and then you just packed your bags and came back to Vancouver?
Kind of. Well, also, Venezuelan situation is not the best. At that point, wasn't that bad, but it still was bad. You could see it coming. As a developer, you have that vision where the error is gonna happen. So where the bug is gonna come out. But it was like that. I got the work permit on Tuesday, and I was grabbing the airplane on Thursday. So I arrived here. I remember it was the last day of the Winter Olympics. So at least I have the chance to celebrate the gold medal, the hockey gold medal that day. So,
Okay.
So it was a gold medal for you.
yeah, I won the gold medal too.
I'm not sure if I quite follow. How long did the process go? Like until they sent you the offer and until you got the work permit?
So I started the process in December 2009 in Venezuela, and of course, and then I got the work permit almost at the end of February. So it's 2 months. But of course, at that point, Canada had this. Canada was looking for developers. So if you were a developer, instead of applying for the whole labor market opinion process, you could skip it. So instead of 1 month, it was just 2 weeks. So that made the process way faster. Which some other friends that they came to Canada in 5 years ago, 2014 or so. They, even though they are computer scientists too, they have to wait for the 3 months of the labor market. So it seems that the developers community here in Canada is growing. So now we don't have that priority of just skip it to have it 2 weeks. But of course, I have a long time that I don't check the immigration processes. So maybe we could have that advantage again.
Yeah, so my visa, I got my visa in 2 weeks.
That's great.
It's a new process called Global Skills Visa. And so after I got the offer, the company kind of helped me sponsor the visa. And then Van Hack also helped me a little bit. And then they did the paperwork, and after 2 weeks I got the visa, and then I had to do some other stuff on my side, so do my paperwork and medical exams and stuff. And then after a month or so, we got the visa and the work permit, and then we came here.
Wow.
So it's easy. It's easier now, I think. So
Yeah, so I guess finally it's improving then,
Yes.
which is good.
Yeah. Unless you want to come directly as a permanent resident, then I guess that you need to go through all the express entry process, which may take like 6 months to 1 year, maybe. I don't know.
I think so.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
so I know that you can apply to be a permanent resident from outside, even if you haven't been in Canada ever.
yeah.
Before it was around 3 years, but now with this express visa, so I guess it's 1 year, 1 year and a half, which is way better. But yeah, so in that sense, it's good because if you're not, you haven't decided yet when you're leaving your country, it's a very tough decision for people. So yeah, just send the papers, leave that process running, and eventually you will get the papers and you can just arrive Canada with being able to work in whatever you want.
And what was your first impression of Vancouver? Do you remember?
Well, in Venezuela, so when you think in Canada, you think that's all snow all over, which is not the case at all here in Vancouver.
It's pretty hot today, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my first impression. Also, in Venezuela, we don't have seasons, so the sun comes out the whole year 5:36 or 6 a.m. and leave at 6 p.m. That's the whole year. So here I arrived on May. I came the first time on May and having a long day until 9, 10, and wow, for me that was huge. That was the experience. But in the downsides, when winter came, that is the other way around. In that sense, I didn't like it. So that was the opposite, the completely opposite.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I really like Vancouver. It's a very nice city to live. It has a little bit of everything. It's multicultural, which is also actually not just the weather. I think the fact that it's multicultural is the most important part, because I have never felt an immigrant here in Canada, because everybody from everywhere is actually, that was one of the challenges at some point. My first couple of months here, I was trying to find a Canadian, like I say that true real Canadian that at least have 3-4 generations born and raised here. And at that point, my first 6 months, I just met one. So that tells you a lot, because so people don't care where you're coming from. Everybody is the same. Everybody have had at some point to deal with immigration. You have to get used to different accents, which at the beginning for me was a little bit difficult, because I didn't speak English well, to plus get used to new accents. But well, everybody had to get used to my accent too, so yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
And what about the workplace? Like, did you feel like it was very different from the places you worked in Venezuela?
So yeah, of course, I think the main difference is culturally. Of course, in Latin America, everybody's more open and making jokes all day, which was a little bit of a difference here. It was like more serious environment, but I had the chance to work with very professional people and mostly tech companies also have their hangout times, and I had the chance to know a lot of people and get used to the culture here. So also, well, I have worked in different companies, so each company has their own rules and way to work. So I have to get used to all that too.
So when did you start working at Unbounce, and why did you decide to start working there?
So I started working at Unbounce in January this year. My husband used to work at Unbounce before, so I had the chance to meet the people and get involved with the Unbounce culture, and I just fall in love of that. Even though it wasn't my job or it wasn't my company, I had the chance to meet a lot of Unbouncers and hang out with them outside office, and yeah, so that's why I mostly chose Unbounce to start working on, more in a cultural, because I fall in love with the culture. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about the culture? Like, how is it different from other companies?
Well, so Unbounce culture is centered on people. So we at Unbounce, we care a lot about everybody. Everybody's being happy with what they're doing, because when you're happy in your team and happy with the work you do every day, so you do it better. It's not a pressure that someone is on top of you watching every day what you're doing, if you're doing it good or wrong. So that part is what makes Unbounce like a better place to work for me.
Yeah. I wish everyone could say that. I'm sure there are some people listening right now and they're like, oh God, I hate my job.
My company is not like that.
But anyway, Estela was here and she said a little bit about her onboarding process. And we thought it was really thoughtful from Unbounce to taking care of really onboarding her. It was more than just getting a new job. She was like changing like from a country to another. So it was really nice the way that she talked to us about it, and you are also saying that. So I think that people can take can have an idea of how Unbounce works. And that said, do you have any tips or advice for people that are listening right now and they are looking for getting a job abroad? Of course, a lot of things have changed since you moved to Vancouver, but still, I'm sure you might have some advice or, I don't know, any tips?
Yeah, so, well, the first thing that you have to think about is that you have to let go fear, because moving to another country is a huge challenge. You're going to a different place, different people, different culture. You have different language too, which could be very intimidating for people that is in another countries that have an idea to work abroad, but actually it's that fear that don't let them. So yeah, after that, well, go start checking all the websites, careers. I think most important, read visions, missions, and the about of the each company you want to apply, because that will help you to make the right choice. If you feel that you can match with the culture of that company, yeah, so that will be the best decision you can make. Because the idea is not to just be in an office and that's it. What else can you do as a so I think well, that's I don't, nothing else come to mind.
About the language, that I feel like the language might be one of the biggest challenges that some people face. For example, I know a lot of people back in Brazil that are really, really talented professionals, and I would always say, why don't you try moving abroad and everything? But then people would always say, my English is not that great and all of that. But we have you here saying that you got your first job here and you didn't have like a really good English, but I feel that everyone feels that way. But still, if you are able to communicate, I think that it's not that big of a deal. So I think that when you say about the language as being the one of the most challenging problems, I think that a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah, so you have to learn new ways to communicate, and yeah, the beginning can be tough. In our career, the good part of it is that all the terms, all the languages, all the tools we use, we have to use terminology in English. Actually, you have to read tutorials in English because you cannot wait to be translated to your language, so it will be out of date. So happens to me at the beginning. It's gonna be hard. I had the English base enough to pass a technical interview, so I could explain all my ideas, all how to resolve the problems, but in a social event, I was mute. I didn't know how to make jokes or quite like be my full self in a party. So but that's something that you start learning. One thing that you have to do is when you move abroad and you want to continue improving your English is try to make people who don't speak your same language. If you can find someone that speaks the completely opposite to you, that you cannot understand, you're going to be forced to learn English. So at the beginning you could see it as a big wall, but it's not. It's just a little bit of practice and getting used to it. And in tech, you have half that way already, because you don't have to learn new, like, how to work in English. You can do that already. You just need to learn how to talk to people. That's it.
Yeah.
So you've been here for 10 years. Did you have to overcome a fear, or did you have a challenge, or something happened to you and said, "Oh, I need to do this thing differently, or maybe learn a new thing so I could fix this"? And
So I think one thing that I had to learn here was the way people even communicate and behave. I guess it's part of moving to another culture. So for me at the beginning was a little bit tough. That let's say people could be very friendly at the office, but then, well, completely different than in Latin America is oh, let's go for beer after. Oh yeah, la 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 la. So it's everybody's very welcoming in that sense, very warm, I guess. And here it wasn't the same. So I have to learn to a little bit to keep my distance. Not be that intrusive. So saying hi with a kiss, oh my god. So that was something that I have to unlearn, to not say hi with a kiss or a hug. Not everybody's willing to do that, but eventually they do. Like everybody start getting used to everybody's personality. So it's I have a friend that he used to, like, the first time I say hi to him with a kiss, he just froze. He was like, what should I do? What should I do? Why is she hugging me? So I could see his fear. So he said, okay, sorry. But yeah.
It's funny because everyone that comes from South America complains about that. It's like, I was going to say hi to someone and I hugged them and it was weird. Yeah. That's funny.
yeah, it's funny because I have a friend here, and I told him that in Brazil, when you meet someone, usually a woman, you give one kiss. In some places, 2 kisses, and in some places, 3 kisses. And he said,
Wow.
"Well, 3 is too much, man. I can't do this."
Okay.
So, do you have so what about the future? Do you have anything you're looking forward to, like some new challenges, or what your future looks like for you?
So in my goals from now on is besides of course improve more in React and Redux. So it's to start learning more about mentorship. So I can be able to help others to develop in their work life and in a team mostly. So yeah, so that's what I'm doing right now. That means learn a lot of agile teamwork, all these kind of things that are very important. Because we cannot forget as developers that we have to work as a team. It's not just coding. So if you don't have someone that is aware of how to handle people or how to make the team work better together, so it could be tough. Yeah.
It's interesting to hear that, because I see many developers that are very concerned with the code, so they want to make their code fast and efficient and the best looking code, but then they don't pay attention to the cultural side of software developments or the communication side, so they're very good at what they do, they're very good coders, but they're not very good at teamwork, and it's hard to balance that, because during college or university they teach us how to make efficient code, good algorithms and stuff, but the human side of this equation is not very well discussed. So do you have an opinion about that?
Yeah, so you have to start getting aware of when you are just focusing only in coding and you're not communicating with the team. It's not that you need someone in the team just always poking you, because at the end you could be the best developer ever, but nobody's able to have a coffee with you. So that's a lot to say. In that case, because there are people that are introverts and they just don't like to talk with others, and that's completely valid, but at least you have to, even though you don't like to go to parties or having coffees with anyone, you have to be able to talk to others and let others help you too, or try to help others. That's something that you have to learn if you want to work as a team. I know that in the university you will never learn how to work with other people, so that's quite an experience you start getting from when you're going from one job to the other. So you have to keep that in the back of your head.
Okay, so that was a really good conversation. And if our listeners want to reach out to you, can we link your LinkedIn or your website or something?
Yeah, the best way is using my LinkedIn. So it's Gleidy Mendoza.
Yeah, I'll provide the link at the description notes.
Yeah, because it's complicated. My name in English is not easier to pronounce.
That's fine. I will leave the link for everyone. So if you have something to say to Gleidy, you have the link. So thank you so much, Gleidy, for joining us today. Yeah, I'm sure people will find it really interesting, and I think we discussed a lot of interesting topics. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for calling me. It has been very nice to meet you guys.
Thank you so much for listening. See you next time on Hex Devs Podcast.